Hey everybody, Mike Hills with Triton Insurance Group in Tampa. And as promised, after Hurricane Irma, I said we'd be putting out a series of videos to help the community, help our clients for some of the questions that people called that need a little help about how to navigate what to do in a hurricane and what to do in any type of disaster. It's a fact of life. We live in Florida and you got to be prepared for that. Being prepared, you got to have three things: knowledge, skills, and equipment. You need to have those three things in place to protect your family, your loved ones, yourself, and your community. But the most important thing that you have to have with that type of training is you have to have standardized training. You can't just go take one class and think that you're fully prepared. What really brings it all together is having standardized, keyword, standardized training that other people in the community, working with the fire department, working with police department, working with FEMA or federal government, can integrate all together. I have the pleasure right now of introducing you to Tom Havlick. He's a board member with East Lake CERT and is also a communication team, one of the communication team leaders. And I've been a member of CERT for a few years. I think I'm actually thrown off the team right now because I haven't showed up for a meeting in a couple years. But the training was invaluable to me. So, Tom, tell us about East Lake CERT, please.
Okay. For those of you who don't know what CERT stands for, it's Community Emergency Response Team. Basically, we're a sponsored organization sponsored by the East Lake Fire Department and Fire Rescue. And we basically take and train people who to basically be prepared for emergencies of any type. It might be weather, it might be those natural disasters such as the recent storms we've had. It could be earthquakes. I don't know if we have any here. It could be man-made disasters such as terrorist attacks, etc., or even just motor vehicle accidents.
Power outage, grid failure.
Okay. Yes, any kind of thing that is basically unexpected for the most part. What we do is we do a standardized training, as was mentioned earlier, and we basically take, and it's a sponsored training through FEMA, that we structurally take and train people on first aid. We do light search and rescue. We do fire suppression. We basically make a person capable of taking care of themselves, their family, and their community. And in that order. You need to make sure that you are safe before you can go and help somebody else. We don't want you to become part of a problem that it might be existing in the community. We have classes that we call our basic class. We happen to do it here in basically 3 nights or 3 days. We do a Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday when we do these classes. And basically we give you the bum's rush, but give you a lot of training about disaster psychology and just all sorts of things that you're going to have to learn to be able to sustain yourself. We give you light first aid, so we teach you how to triage, how to make sure that you can categorize an injury, who needs immediate care, who can wait till later. So,
tell us about the different levels of training that you can go through with this. You got different types of, you can go all the way up to almost paramedic level.
Oh, absolutely.
Type of training.
Right. We have got members who have started off just coming here with an interest and have gone on to become EMTs. I'm sure that some of the other CERT members have, in fact, I know of a few that went on to be paramedics. I myself am a former EMT, so I had a little interest in this before I got wind of what CERT was all about. So it was just kind of up my alley. I was looking for a volunteer organization to kind of use some of the skills I've had. And
the cool thing about CERT and what CERT does is if you're going to go sign up for paramedic level training or take communication classes or any kind of first responder classes, you can spend a lot of money. You can spend thousands of dollars going to university.
Yep.
How much does it cost to take all this training through CERT?
Zero.
It costs zero.
Right. The majority of the courses that are available to everybody are at no cost to you. We do have courses that are available through the state and through FEMA. There's a lot of online courses that are available to people that once you take our basic course, we encourage people to take courses in things such as, disaster plans, organizational skills, so you know what the hierarchy of a response is. So when you come to a scene, you know who's in command, what your, as a subordinate, what your responsibilities are, and it makes for an easy structural organization so that we know what we're supposed to do and when we're supposed to do something.
And folks, this is not some type of prepper, guns, that kind of thing at all. This is a standardized, through the federal government, incident management structure.
Right.
And go ahead.
Okay. We also have available a lot of exercises that we do. We call tabletop exercises that we get involved in. We do a lot of hands-on things too, where we do search and rescue exercises. We did one about a year or two ago now in our local park, where we did a lost child exercise, and we had many different organizations come and help us. We had the Civil Air Patrol
flying
Absolutely.
over. Yeah, that was very cool. It was about 120, 130 people doing the searches.
Definitely.
So
we had several other search groups, or CERT groups, with the search. We also had, I believe there was a scout group. There was...
we had dogs.
We had a K9 came out. Absolutely. Yeah. The sheriff was out. We also had SunStart at the... helped us. In fact, during that exercise, there was an actual emergency, and their response time was great. I think their response time was about 15 seconds.
So a couple cool things about for example, the mudslides that happened in Washington 2 or 3 years ago. The roads were wiped out. 3, 4, 5 foot, 20 feet of mud wiping out houses. And emergency services weren't able, you can't always rely, the theory behind CERT is you can't always rely on fire department or EMS or police to show up. And it's kind of like you have to grab the bull by the horns to help your family and help your community. But when the mudslides came through, the first people that were really on the scene and with communications, i.e. ham radios, was the CERT responders.
Right.
And I know they're also very active in Houston in the flooding. I saw some stuff on that, and also in Puerto Rico. I saw some CERT teams that were responded in Puerto Rico too.
Yes, there was a call out through the Red Cross for ham operators, and I believe the ARRL, which is a arm of amateur radio, they sent out about 23 people who went on the ground and basically set up radio communications and basically help get the word out to people and let people get a hold of their families. So hopefully families who weren't able to contact their loved ones, they could rest at ease and know that somebody is safe. And it really helped a lot of people.
CERT's powerful information. CERT is powerful information. And but back to that mudslide, it's kind of like the whole incident command structure is 2 or 3 guys from CERT could be the first responders giving communications to outside EMS that's hours away, days away, miles away.
Right.
So then they get prepared, but they're following the same type of structure. So like you, as just a Joe citizen, Hurricane Harvey, and even down in the Keys, people wanted to go help. And your thought is, I want to go help these people. I don't know what to do. You're not going to show up and just automatically be, hey, go help people.
Right.
You're going to fall into an incident command structure. You can go to a command post. They're going to ask you what your skill set is. If it's medical, if it's search and rescue, if it's military training, do you have any equipment with you? Maybe you got big rigs or a bulldozer that you're bringing because you're a contractor and you have access to that equipment. But everything is done in a very structured manner. And CERT is kind of the foundation for that.
Correct.
It's amazing.
Now,
really
what we train people in is that basically, if you're the first person on the scene, you're the incident commander at that point, and we build on that. So when someone else comes who has a little bit more training, they'll take over as incident command, and everybody knows what that command structure is. So the expectation is you come on board, you go to incident command, get an assignment, and go off and do the best you can with the tools that we know that you have available to yourself. An example with the responses we had, Irma, most recent storm we've had. We set up communications. I've got a couple of gentlemen back in the room here who came to our location right here, which is our EOC for the local fire, and they set up our communications. So they set up radio communications with the county EOC. And they were able to then make sure that they're in contact for any kind of needs of either rescues or equipment or any supplies, items we might need. We also coordinated with the fire department and did basically scene assessment. We assisted a lot of people in assisted living centers and helped evacuate those individuals to higher, drier ground so that when their power went out, which it eventually did, they were in a safe place to basically go through the storm. So we did a lot of legwork with the fire department to make sure that the community was a safe environment.
Yeah, that's awesome. What about age restrictions or physical health restrictions?
Age restrictions, I believe our minimum is 18. We do actually have a teen CERT group that you just need to be a teen, obviously. But right now, for a member to be in the what we call the adult CERT, you basically need to be 18 or older. And as far as physical condition, anybody who can walk, talk, carry something, will take you.
You do not have to be a physical dynamo to belong to CERT.
No, absolutely not. We have a member who happens to be a blind individual.
And he is awesome.
Awesome.
On the radio.
Absolutely.
He's like net control.
Yes.
And I worked with him a couple times before, and his vocabulary, his clarity, is just beautiful.
I have a hard time keeping up with him.
Exactly, exactly. So physical ability is not an issue. What is your call sign?
My call sign, KK4GVD.
Mine is KK4RUM.
Absolutely.
And my wife thinks I'm such a nerd. But when the hurricane was coming,
yes,
I was able to listen by minute,
right,
hour by hour reports of where Irma was, what the wind speed was just outside of Lakeland when it was rolling into Polk County, when it was coming into Sarasota County. I had so much information because of CERT training and being ham radio qualified.
Yeah. Amateur radio communications is a very, very vital part of our operations. One of the first things we do when we set up for any kind of incident that we have, we need to set up our communications network so that people can communicate with each other. I mentioned we did the sweeps through the neighborhood, helping people in the assisted living centers. Every one of our operators had a ham radio so that we could communicate with him or her to make sure that we knew where they were, what they needed, if they've completed their task, and just made sure that everybody was safe and knew where they were at all times.
CB radios do not work. They get too clustered. When an emergency, they're too jammed up. Ham radio is more of a private signal. It can hit repeaters. It can go for miles. I've been on calls where I'm talking to people or listening to people across the state by hitting repeaters.
Absolutely.
I think it's very cool.
Yeah. One of the first things we also did with that storm is we set up each of our stations, and this department happens to have 3 stations. We manned each station with a ham radio so that if their main communications with the county went down, they'd have a backup to fall back into to make sure that they didn't lose communications with anybody.
How does somebody find out about getting more involved with CERT? You got the website. It's eastlakecert.com or something?
Eastlakecert.org is our particular website. And we also do have a Facebook page that people could go to find out information. You can also go online to FEMA and search CERT, and there's a lot of information about the background of CERT and various local CERT organizations other than Eastlake CERT that are able to be joined, and they also hold classes.
And if you live in Miami, there's a CERT team somewhere in Miami. If you're in Orlando, they're across the state. But yes, Eastlake CERT probably is one of the big. I should have made comments like that, but it's a very good regular training, good organization. And Tom, I got one last question for you. Have you ever had a roll of duct tape?
Absolutely.
In your go bag that melts?
I can't say I have.
Tom Havlick, Eastlake CERT. Find out about it. Get involved. CERT is good stuff.